Mr. Something.
Most well-known and popular robots were known for being well-engineered, high-tech machines with lots of money put into them. Many others are fondly remembered for their stunning looks and shining armour. So it may come as a surprise to many that Something, a grungy, greasy, low-tech robot, not only makes it onto this list, but has a huge following as well. Much like a cult film, it may not be pretty or the best in its field, but it has avid fans who will defend its legacy for many more years to come. Being honest, this is most likely less to do with the robot itself and more to do with its builder and driver, Mr. Dig. Known for his dreadlock hair and goatee, Mr. Dig was a wonderful delight of a competitor who always had fun and took losing extremely well. And that's a good thing, considering it only won one battle and lost 7. Speaking of its only win, over the years it has become one of the most infamous victories of Series 4, not because of how it won, but because of the myth that followed. In its opening melee in Series 4, it was believed for years that an axe blow from Something was what KO'd the number 28 seed's Weldor. However, this wasn't the case. In actual fact, it was fellow competitor Little Fly who delivered the killing blow with its lawnmower blade, a fact confirmed by Weldor's team captain mere moments after the battle had finished. Still, people wanted it so badly to be the case for this charming machine that it spread like wildfire, and even to this day people are still finding out the truth. Dig built Something with the intent of using low power tech to take out the upcoming techno age. Did it work? No, but arguably it did something better. It gained a fan base bigger than many other high-tech robots and became one of the most memorable and loved robots in history, solidifying its place on this list.
Oh, that's Something with the great axe coming down once again. The big axe built for brawling, Jules described Something. Low tech in the war against high-tech computers. Something fighting back for the age-old traditions, perhaps.
From Aberdeenshire, PP3D.
By the end of the reboot, most robots had settled into great, good or bad tier, but PP3D really finds itself in X-Factor territory. The spiritual successor to Typhoon 2, and the closest we got to a reigning champion in Series 8, Gary Kern's 3D printed machine boasted one of the most devastating spinners of the reboot, as well as one of the most unusual designs. The undercutting flywheel had been toyed with on Robot Wars, but PP3D was a more successful version of the design, and its flywheel was able to dish out powerful hits even as it skated across the arena floor, the slightest design flaw capable of stopping the weapon in its tracks. PP3D did not set the world on fire in Series 8, but it was by far the most successful of the 8 fourth placers, managing to shear one of Apollo's wheels in its melee, defeated future champion Eruption in a straight head-to-head, and did Typhoon 2 proud by causing even more damage to Storm 2. In Series 9, all eyes were on PP3D, who had crowdfunded a new flywheel with all of the names on it, and things seemed to be going very well when it took out Push to exit in the first round and smashed Cherub into next week with one of the most famous big hits in all of Robot Wars. But then came one of the most controversial judges' decisions of all time. The judges believed that PP3D's earth-shattering hit was not enough to overcome Cherub's aggression. Even as fans took to Twitter to decry the decision, PP3D's stock quietly fell in battles with Behemoth and Eruption, losing a grudge match with barely a whimper to show for itself. PP3D did not cover itself in the same glory as Carbide or Ironside 3 during its life, but its ability to deliver big hits is unquestionable. And the number of fans quoting Gary Kern's iconic "She's up to speed now, boys," is more than enough to get it onto our list.
But it's getting up to speed with mighty power. Bang! Smash! Destruction! Look at this! Whoa!
From Laber in Germany to TSUNAMI.
The waves of a disaster in many a case, the German runner-up made its UK bow in the 7th Wars, and just as quickly as it arrived from Germany, it had disposed of Major Tom 3 and Diabolus with 2 devastating Utas in its opening battle. So quick and so impressive that the highlights for the fight were longer than the fight itself. TSUNAMI's flipper power was just as impressive in its subsequent battles, as it hurled Constrictor over the barriers before helping send Exterminator halfway across the arena in the heat final. However, What followed after this flip was also quite notable, as Tsunami, with Exterminator overturned and unable to self-right, chucked its opponent back onto its wheels while attempting to complete yet another out of the arena flip. And from here on, Tsunami was mercilessly punished for its error, as it was ripped body panel by body panel apart, before being set ablaze and chucked out of the arena itself. Here we were, with seconds to wait, looking at Tsunami progressing on through to the semi-finals in style. And yet in one of the most notable jaws of defeat moments in Robot Wars history, Tsunami managed to throw it all away, with emotions of sadness, confusion, and immense surprise coming to everybody's minds at what could have been. And with one moment, we were no longer wondering if Tsunami was going to go all the way, but if it could have. And for such a powerful machine to have such a big what if hanging over it is such a shame. And speaking of powerful German machines with what ifs...
From Automonster in Germany, Black Hole.
The reason why Black Hole was so iconic is undoubtedly its weapon. Sporting two vertical discs at each end of its rectangular face, Black Hole was a new type of spinner. Its absolute destruction of Zeus, where it threw the Italian machine around the arena with brute force, saw the robot make an explosive impression on British audiences. It's only natural then that Black Hole's loss to Philippa 2 was a huge disappointment for Robot Wars fans. Starting with some massive hits from Black Hole against the Belgian robot, it seemed certain that the innovative Black Hole would beat the comparatively modest Philippa 2. But it wasn't to be. Black Hole was flipped by Philippa 2 and was pitted in one of the most dramatic climaxes in the show's history. It's rare that the come-from-behind victory inspires anything but excitement, but denying Black Hole a third fight against Tornado of all machines has given many Robot Wars fans a sense of frustration. Having finally had a good German machine dangled in front of us, to lose it before it fought the UK champion was a bitter pill to swallow, no matter the circumstances. Regardless, this what if is one of the most interesting to consider in Robot Wars. Could Black Hole have gone toe-to-toe with British champion Tornado in the final? The record in German Robot Wars certainly indicated it could have done. Blazing through all of its opponents, including Tsunami, Black Hole proved it wasn't just a flash in the pan. However, Black Hole's importance to UK audiences remains its explosive debut, and the enduring what-if moment that it sparked.
Something's come flying off again! Zeus in real trouble here! Black Hole looks formidable coming forward! The German mean machine!
From Lewis in East Sussex, Terra Turtle.
Canadian expat and Greenpeace director John Frizzell had a soft spot for turtles, so it's no surprise that his robot was modeled after our reptile friends. And while it never passed round 1 of any tournament, it was always up for a fight, and did its darndest to represent Canada at every opportunity it could. The first Terra Turtle, which was in Extreme 2, featured a spinning frame that honestly didn't do a whole lot of damage, even shearing itself off in one fight. Coming back for Series 7, they replaced the bar spinner with a horizontal disc, but this new weapon came with new downsides. Their compact design made it easy for Atomic to flip them out, and their now unprotected top was like chewing gum for snakebite. This could have been the end for Terra Turtle, but when the reboot happened, John and Terra Turtle answered the call, now with a reinforcement in the form of Minibot Hatchling. And while they again failed to pass round 1 of the main tournament, they did score points from the UK versus the world. Granted, it was because the other team committed a foul. After this, John formally announced the retirement of Terra Turtle, with a career record of 0-7, including 2 losses by getting flipped out of the arena. Still, both driver and bot kept a smile on their faces the whole way through, and swam into the hearts of viewers. I hope Terra Turtle finds peace in retirement. I hear Florida's nice.
Well, they came to laugh, but it is Mock Turtle out there now, as Killock grabs hold. Oh, now what's that going to say? JJ's placard. You got no chance.
From Stoke-on-Trent in Staffordshire, Mute.
The front hinged flipper was quite a rare weapon in robotic combat, especially in comparison to its exponentially more popular rear hinged counterpart, but they certainly had their advantages. A front hinge flipper tended to focus more on controlled flips with less power and more precision, and usually enjoyed the benefits of a more effective self-righting mechanism. Absolutely none of this applied to Mute, who threw every stereotype about the front hinge flipper out of the window. Making its debut in the New Blood Championship deep into Robot Wars' run, Mute launched its opponents in ways we had never seen from a front hinge flipper, and made it all the way to the final, where it lost one of the closest battles in the show's history to Storm 2. The competition certainly demonstrated Mute's power and effectiveness, but we would have to wait until the 7th Wars to see what truly made Mute famous: its extraordinary good luck and its flamboyant self-righting. Only one machine in Robot Wars can claim to KO an opponent by self-righting so high into the air that it dealt a killer blow by landing on an opponent, but it was Mute who did this to knock the 10th seed Behemoth out of its heat. The heat final against Judge Dredd 3 was an even more curious case. We do know from audience accounts that Mute did a reasonable job of using its smaller rear flipper to initiate attacks on its opponent, and it disabled Judge Dredd's drive system to earn its win by Judge's decision. But the editors had no interest in making Mute look competent, when it's so much funnier to just show it leapfrogging around the arena aimlessly as it comically fails to self-right. Certainly it earned more style points than most robots could muster. It all came to a crashing end when the more controlled front hinge flipper of Firestorm 5 set Mute on another one of its self-righting escapades until it landed in a position where it was essentially forced to throw itself out of the arena. But could there really be a more fitting end for Mute? With a deceptively good combat record and losses only to grand finalists, I could portray Mute as the successful robot that it was, but it's the insanity of this robotic jack-in-the-box that unceremoniously throws Mute face first into the list.
Eyes of the law have Mute in their sights. Mute, loud and proud. What is going on out there? You're jumping around like a little flea. Mute. Oh, brilliant. Ah, dear, oh dear.
From Mickfield near Stowmarket, RECYCLOPSE.
At number 84, RECYCLOPSE. Before Cassius was floating like a butterfly and stinging like a bee, Rex Garrett made his name in Robot Wars with RECYCLOPSE. Recognising early on that more than anything else, a distinctive design keeps the bot in people's minds, Rex gave RECYCLOPSE a truly striking look, with its wild, glowing eye and leering tongue. And it's that tongue that truly marks RECYCLOPSE out, as it contained a groundbreaking weapon. The first pneumatic flipper. From Chaos 2 to Eruption and so many bots in between, they all owe a small debt to RECYCLOPSE. This isn't the only Robot Wars first RECYCLOPSE would usher in, starting their campaign in dramatic style by scoring the first flip of a house robot when they overturned Matilda. A quick bout against Scrapper saw them follow up their achievement in the trial by partaking the first, and fittingly enough still controversial, Judge's decision against Mortis, so close they tried to call it a draw. Ultimately, RECYCLOPSE won the day, and proceeded to the first ever grand final, where it ended its campaign running afoul of that other great inverter of Series 1, Roadblock. RECYCLOPSE's time in Robot Wars was brief, and its achievements overshadowed by its successor, but RECYCLOPSE provided the soil, the compost even, in which many others, from Cassius to Chaos and beyond, could grow.
Look at Matilda there, stopping the progress of all RECYCLOPSE. Until then, it's flipped. Wow, you got underneath Matilda and flipped her over. She will not be pleased.
From Aynsham, Winnie, Oxford and Bristol, MOUSETRAP.
Series 4 have plenty of robots whose designs are striking and iconic, and it is the cartoonish simplicity of MOUSETRAP that makes it endearing. It was partly the simple design that made it seem like a surefire bet to duck out at some stage in its heat in Series 4, and yet it reached a semi-final, though it certainly had some luck in doing so. Perhaps because of this, it has a somewhat mixed legacy amongst Robot Wars fans. Its Series 4 heat was weak, with its strongest opponents being the modestly seeded Evil Weevil 2 and Weldor 2. However, with some fortune against Evil Weevil and Something, as well as the judge's decision in its heat final, MOUSETRAP would progress to face Stinger in its semi-final. So why is MOUSETRAP memorable then? Well, for its Series 5 fight against S3 alone there is a solid case. After another mixed display against Shredder in the first round of Series 5, it seems certain that MOUSETRAP will be decimated by the most exciting spin-off seen since Hypnodisc exploded onto the scene. But in a brilliant display, MOUSETRAP put up an astounding fight against S3, taking its punishment and making sure to use its trap weapon to both hit and entangle S3's deadly spinner. The damage dealt to MOUSETRAP by S3 was a decisive blow for the judges, however, and MOUSETRAP's resilience could not see it through to the heat final. But the fight definitely gave MOUSETRAP an iconic moment to its name, though one it could not build upon, as its Series 6 successor to be, Mutant MOUSETRAP, failed to qualify. MOUSETRAP's legacy is therefore a mixed one, but it is hard to deny the appeal of MOUSETRAP's design and its ability to continue on against all odds and expectations.
And I think Jason Launchbury's tactics here to stay out of trouble, well, or try and snare S3, and they've done just that!
From Essex, Scutter's Revenge.
In the Third Wars, we got our first glimpse of some teams and robots who would go on to become the show's most familiar faces. Robots like Thing 2, Dominator 1, and Exterminator gave first impressions of their potential, and the fierce, pushing menace Scutter's Revenge was no different. Named for the service and maintenance robots on the sci-fi series Red Dwarf, on which Robot Wars host Craig Charles first rose to fame, the first of the Scutterbots managed to take out arguably the most stacked and most entertaining of the Series 3 heats. Built around the scoop and with the engine power to match, Scutter's Revenge swept its first two opponents into the pit to reach the memorable heat final. Not a single Series 3 recap exists without that same footage of Scutter's Revenge shepherding Pussycat against the arena wall. And the near unprecedented disqualification that followed put Darren, Graham and Olaremi into the semi-finals. Scutter's Revenge would also join a number of its fellow Heat M robots in Robot Wars' first video game, Metal Mayhem. Its black, red and white stripes rendered in loving detail on the robot selection screen, which is more than we could say for poor old Exterminator. Though far from the most reliable machine of its day, Scutter's Revenge would nevertheless set a benchmark that its successors would meet year after year, always chasing, in the words of Olaremi Idris, that judgment day.
The little pickaxe has gone, snapped off on the arena grid and into the pit! Well, that was over very quickly for Zeus, they're out!
From Grays in Essex and seeded number 10, Spawn of Scudder.
Clad in bright cerulean blue and with above average reliability, you'd be forgiven for not realising that Spawn of Scudder was from the same team that brought us Scutter's Revenge and Spawn Again. Spawn of Scudder frequently escaped the criticisms that deny the first and third Scutterbots a big fanbase, and as such its fleeting appearance on the show is all the more precious. Spawn of Scudder did its best to entertain in a rather dull Heat L, KOing Banshee with a memorable display of its auto-firing spike, and reached the semi-finals before falling short of a tough draw and Panic Attack. It was outside of the main series that the Spawn of Scudder really got to show off though, clocking up 245 points in the Pinball Warrior, only 10 points shy of the champion Gemini, who needed 2 independent robots to score the equivalent amount. Much like Dominator the previous year, this would be the closest the veteran Team Scudderbots ever came to a trophy, and this may be a major contribution to the fans who complain about Gemini being able to compete in the pinball at all, which, really it shouldn't be, but okay. Spawn of Scudder also put on a fierce but brief performance in the Southern Annihilator, where it became one of the few robots to flip Razor over in the heat of battle. Though it would finally succumb to the Scudderbots' curse and breakdown in the final seconds, to this day there are fans who suggest it should have progressed over the equally floundering Behemoth. We would never see Spawn of Scudder again after Series 4, but it was a much needed upgrade to Scutter's Revenge, and a reminder for all Roboteers to keep trying something new.
With the polycarbonate shell, the warthog features, but that's the danger with a robot shaped like Banshee. You can be toppled and thrust away by that spike there. Venomous Spawn of Scudder.